I was cleaning the mansion of the richest man in America when I uncovered a forbidden painting. When I pulled off the cloth, I froze. It was my late mother. What he confessed next shattered everything I knew. I was cleaning the mansion of the richest man in America when I uncovered a forbidden painting. When I pulled off the cloth, I froze. It was my late mother. My name is Marcus Solano. I'm 27 years old, and I clean houses for people who will never know my name. Not because they're unkind, but because when you have $300 million and an estate the size of a city block, the person scrubbing your floors is just part of the architecture. The Beltran estate sat on a hill in Pacific Heights, overlooking San Francisco, like a crown on a king's head. White Italian stone, wrought iron gates that cost more than most people's houses, windows so pristine you could perform surgery on the glass. Every detail screamed money in a way that made you forget money could scream. I'd worked there for 2 years through Elite Residential Services, the agency that supplied staff to the 1%. My supervisor, Patricia Chen, 15 years placing workers in billionaire households, had been very clear during my orientation. Arthur Beltran is the 4th richest person in America, she'd said, showing me a photo of a man in his early 50s with silver hair and eyes that looked through you rather than at you. Tech mogul, venture capitalist, owns significant stakes in 17 Fortune 500 companies. He values privacy, discretion, and absolute professionalism. You will not speak to him unless spoken to. You will not photograph anything. You will not touch personal items. You will be invisible. I'd been invisible for 2 years. It was easier than you'd think. The estate employed a rotating staff of 12, housekeepers, gardeners, a private chef, security. We came and went on schedules designed to minimize overlap, to ensure the house was always perfect but never crowded with help. I worked Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:1 a.m. to 2:00 p.m., responsible for the East Wing, 4 guest bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a music room, and the private library. I'd seen Arthur Beltran maybe 5 times in 2 years, always on his phone, always moving from one room to another with the focused intensity of a man who couldn't afford to waste a single second. He never looked at me, not once. I was furniture that occasionally moved. That was fine. I wasn't there to be seen. I was there because Elite paid $32 an hour, which was enough to cover rent on my studio apartment in the Tenderloin and pay down the medical debt that had followed my mother to her grave. My mother, Valeria Solano. She died 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4 by the time they caught it. We'd faced it together in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Mission, her in the bedroom, me on a pull-out couch in the living room, watching her disappear day by day while I worked 3 jobs to afford the medications insurance wouldn't cover. She died on a Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m. I was holding her hand. Her last words were delirious, fragments that didn't connect. Tell Arthur, the painting, he promised. I'd assumed it was the morphine talking. She'd been on heavy doses for weeks, slipping in and out of consciousness, sometimes calling me by my father's name, a father I'd never known, never even seen a picture of. She'd always refused to talk about him. He's gone, she'd say whenever I asked. That part of my life is over. After she died, I'd gone through her things looking for clues, found nothing. No photos, no letters, no evidence that she'd ever had a life before me. Just her nursing degree from a community college, pay stubs from the hospital where she'd worked as an RN for 20 years, and a small jewelry box containing a single ring, simple gold band, no inscription. I'd sold the ring for $400 to help pay for her cremation. That Tuesday started like any other. I arrived at the Beltran estate at 5:54 a.m., badged in through the service entrance, changed into my uniform in the staff room. Patricia's schedule had me focused on the library today, full deep clean, including the upper shelves and crown molding. The library was my favorite room in the house, 2 stories tall, walls lined with books that actually looked read, not just decorative. A massive oak desk dominated the center, leather chair positioned to look out over the garden, ladder on rails to reach the upper shelves, and on the east wall, above a fireplace that probably cost more than my yearly salary, hung a painting covered with heavy cloth. I'd noticed it the first day I'd worked in the library, asked Patricia about it during my lunch break. "Don't touch that," she'd said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Ever. Mr. Beltran fired someone last year for dusting too close to it. Whatever's under there, it's completely off limits." I'd respected that boundary for 2 years, cleaned around it, never letting my cloth or duster get within 3 feet, but I'd wondered. The way the cloth hung, expensive fabric, not just a dust cover, suggested something important, something protected, something that mattered enough to fire people over. That morning, I started with the windows, Windex and microfiber making the glass disappear, moved to the books, checking each shelf for dust, carefully removing and replacing volumes. The work was meditative, rhythmic. I could lose myself in it, forget about the medical bills, forget about coming home to an empty apartment, forget about the mother-shaped hole in my life. I was halfway through the second level of shelving, standing on the ladder, when I noticed something on the desk below. Papers, contracts, maybe. I couldn't see clearly from this angle, but something about them caught my attention. I descended the ladder, telling myself I was just going to move them before I cleaned the desk surface. Patricia's rule about not touching personal items warred with my need to do my job properly. I picked up the papers carefully. Financial documents, dense with legal language I didn't fully understand. But at the bottom of the third page, a signature. Arthur Beltran. The handwriting stopped me cold, bold, flowing. The capital A and B almost identical in their sweeping strokes. The way the tail of the N curved back under itself. I'd seen that handwriting before. My hands started shaking. I set the papers down, fumbled for my phone, scrolled through my photos, found what I was looking for. A picture I'd taken of my mother's nursing degree before I'd donated her things to Goodwill. The signature at the bottom, Valeria Solano. The handwriting was nearly identical. Same sweeping capitals, same curved tail on the lowercase letters. Different names, but the underlying structure, no, that was impossible. Coincidence. Lots of people had similar handwriting. I was seeing patterns because I wanted to see them. Because I missed her so much, I was finding her ghost in random signatures. I put my phone away, tried to refocus on cleaning, but my eyes kept drifting to the covered painting. I told myself not to look, told myself Patricia's warning was serious, that I needed this job, that my curiosity wasn't worth the risk. I cleaned the desk, polished the leather, organized the pens in their holder, moved to the fireplace, carefully dusting the mantel, the decorative items, a small bronze statue, a crystal paperweight, an antique clock. A window banged open somewhere in the house. The security system would alert the guards, but in the meantime, wind rushed through the hallway into the library. The cloth covering the painting lifted slightly at one corner. I saw a gold frame, oil paint texture, a hint of warm color, skin tone, maybe, hair. My heart was hammering. I climbed back up the ladder, ostensibly to finish the upper shelves, but really to get a better angle on the painting. If the wind caught the cloth again, it didn't. The window slammed shut somewhere. The air went still. I should have left it alone, should have followed the rules, should have stayed invisible. I descended the ladder, walked toward the east wall, stood in front of the covered painting, so close I could see the texture of the cloth, the way it draped over the frame. Just one look, just to satisfy my curiosity. Then I'd cover it again, and no one would ever know. I reached up, gripped the edge of the cloth, pulled it away. My mother stared back at me. Not my mother as I'd known her, tired, worn down by work and illness, her beauty faded to something functional. This was my mother at maybe 25, luminous and alive, hair falling loose around her shoulders, dark and glossy, eyes bright with intelligence and something else, joy, maybe, or hope. She wore a simple white dress, sat in a garden somewhere I didn't recognize, sunlight catching on her skin like she was made of gold. She looked happy, free, nothing like the woman who died exhausted and broke in a Mission District apartment, apologizing for the burden of her medical bills. The painting was signed in the corner, V. Solano, 1996, 3 years before I was born. What the hell do you think you're doing? The voice hit me like a physical blow. I spun around. Arthur Beltran stood in the doorway, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows, tie loosened. Fury carved lines into his face that made him look 10 years older than his photo. I'm sorry, I was just the wind. I didn't mean to. He crossed the room in 4 long strides, moving to cover the painting, to restore the boundary I'd violated. Then he actually looked at what I'd uncovered. All the anger drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. He staggered, grabbed the edge of the desk to steady himself. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. No, he whispered. No, that's not. You shouldn't be. He looked at the painting, at me, back at the painting, his eyes moving between us like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't make sense. Who is she to you? His voice came out hollow, rough. I lifted my chin, felt something rise in me. My mother's strength, maybe, or just 2 years of being invisible finally cracking. That's my mother, Valeria Solano. His face went completely white. He sat down hard in the leather chair, breathing like he'd just run a marathon. And you are? Marcus Solano. The words hung in the air between us. He stared at me, really looked at me for the first time in 2 years. His eyes traced my face, the shape of my eyes, the line of my jaw, my cheekbones, my mouth, cataloging features like he was searching for something. Oh my God, he breathed. You have her eyes. He stood up, took a step closer. You have her eyes, and you have my face. The room tilted sideways. What? How old are you? 27. When's your birthday? March 14th, 1997. He did the math in his head. His hands were shaking. Valeria, is she still? She died 3 years ago. Cancer. Something broke in his face. He turned away, hands over his mouth, shoulders heaving. When he turned back, there were tears on his cheeks. The door to the library burst open. Patricia stood there, face red, out of breath. "Mr. Beltran, I'm so sorry. I told him never to touch. I'll terminate him immediately." "Get out," Beltran said quietly. "Sir, get out!" The roar made Patricia flinch backward. "And no one disturbs us. No one. Do you understand?" She fled. The door slammed. We stood there in the vast library, alone with 30 years of silence. Beltran moved to a cabinet, pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses, poured with shaking hands, pushed one toward me. "Drink," he said. "You're going to need it." I didn't touch the glass. "What's going on?" He drank his own whiskey in one swallow, poured another. Then he walked to the fireplace, to a section of decorative paneling that looked like all the others, pressed something. A hidden panel swung open, revealing a safe. He entered a code, 6 digits, 031497, my birthday. The safe opened. Inside was a box, carved wood, about the size of a shoebox. He carried it to the desk, set it down carefully. "I need you to sit down," he said. "I don't want to sit down. I want you to explain what the hell is happening. Please." His voice cracked. "Just, please, sit." I sat. He opened the box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, tied with ribbon, photographs, and on top a smaller envelope with my name written on it in my mother's handwriting. "I kept everything," Beltran said quietly. "Every letter she sent me, every photo. I watched you grow up from a distance, Marcus. Every school play, every graduation, every birthday." He pulled out photographs. Me at 6, blowing out candles on a birthday cake. Me at 12, in a little league uniform. Me at 18, holding my high school diploma. Photos I'd never seen anyone take. "You were there?" My voice came out strangled. "Always. Watching. Never close enough to matter." He looked at me with devastated eyes. "I'm your father, Marcus, and I've been a coward for your entire life." The room seemed to be spinning. "That's impossible. My mother never—" "She said my father was gone, that he wasn't part of our lives. She was protecting you, from me, from my family, from the choice I made." He poured more whiskey, didn't drink it. "I met your mother in 1995. I was 22, working my first startup after dropping out of Stanford. She was 23, putting herself through nursing school. She came to a tech conference I was speaking at. We started talking. I fell in love with her in about 20 minutes. He smiled, sad and distant. She was brilliant, not tech brilliant like me, people brilliant. She understood emotions, psychology, how to help people. She wanted to be a nurse because she genuinely wanted to heal people. I'd never met anyone like her. We dated for a year. I was going to propose, had the ring picked out. Then my father found out." "Your father?" "Theodore Beltran. He built the family fortune from nothing, made his first million in real estate, turned it into 100 million in tech investments. He was traditional, old school. He believed in bloodlines and legacies, and making sure the family name stayed powerful." Beltran's face twisted. "When he found out I was serious about Valeria, he had her investigated. Found out she was an immigrant's daughter, working class, no family money. He told me I'd throw away everything, my inheritance, the family business, my future, if I married beneath my station. I was 22 and stupid. I thought I could convince him. Thought if he just met her, he'd see what I saw. So I brought her to the family estate for dinner." He closed his eyes. "My father was charming, gracious, made her feel welcome. Then, after dinner, he took me aside and gave me an ultimatum. End it with Valeria, or he'd destroy her, ruin her nursing career before it started, make sure she couldn't find work anywhere. He had the power to do it, and we both knew it. I was a coward. I chose money over both of you." My hands had clenched into fists. "She was pregnant?" "I didn't know. Not until 6 months later when I hired a private investigator to check on her. By then she'd moved, changed her number, shut me out completely. The investigator sent photos. Your mother, 7 months pregnant, working double shifts at a hospital to save money. Why didn't you?" "I tried." His voice broke. "I showed up at her apartment. She wouldn't let me in. Said I'd made my choice and she was making hers. That you deserved better than a father who'd pick money over love. She told me to stay away, that we were doing fine without me. But you didn't stay away." "I couldn't. I set up trusts, anonymous payments for her rent, for your school expenses, hired investigators to send me updates, photos. I told myself I was helping, that even if I couldn't be your father, I could make sure you were taken care of. We had nothing." The words exploded out of me. "We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. She worked herself sick to pay for my college. When she got cancer, we couldn't afford treatment. She died apologizing for the medical bills she was leaving me." Beltran flinched like I'd hit him. "The money I sent, she never used it. I paid into an account in her name, thousands of dollars every month. She never touched a penny." "What?" He pulled out bank statements from the box. "An account at Wells Fargo under Valeria Solano's name. Statements going back 27 years. Regular deposits. The balance was $847,000. She refused it. All of it. Said she didn't want anything from me except distance." He looked at me. "But I put your name on the account when you turned 18. Legally, half of it is yours. Has been for 9 years. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. My mother had lived poor and died broke while nearly $1 million sat in an account with her name on it." "Why?" I whispered. "Pride. Principle. I don't know. Your mother was Marcus. She was stronger than me. She knew what mattered. She knew raising you with integrity was worth more than my money. He pulled out the envelope with my name on it. She sent me this 2 weeks before she died. I didn't open it until after the funeral. You went to her funeral? I sat in the back, left before anyone could see me. I wanted to pay for everything, the service, the cremation, but she'd left instructions that I wasn't to be contacted, that everything was to be handled by you. He handed me the envelope. Read it. Inside was a letter in my mother's handwriting, shaky from illness, but still legible. Arthur, I'm dying. You probably already know. I assume you still have someone watching us. I don't have the energy to be angry about it anymore. I need you to understand something. I made the right choice. Raising Marcus alone, struggling, working too hard. It was all worth it because he became exactly who he was meant to be. Good, kind, strong, nothing like you. But he's going to have questions after I'm gone. Questions I never answered because I wanted to protect him from the truth about his father, about you choosing money over us, about your family's cruelty. Don't tell him. Let him believe you were just gone. It's easier than knowing you were always there, always watching, always choosing not to be part of his life. The painting you asked for, I finished it before I got sick. It's yours, since you paid for it. But make sure Marcus never sees it. Don't let him know you kept a portrait of me while we struggled. That kind of knowledge would destroy something in him. Stay away from him, Arthur. It's the only good thing you can still do. Foul. My hands were shaking so badly the letter rattled. She painted this for you years ago, before you were born, before everything fell apart. She was incredibly talented, wanted to be an artist but couldn't afford the schooling. I commissioned the portrait as a gift. She finished it 6 months before she got pregnant. He looked at the painting with something like reverence. It's the only piece of her I had. I hung it here, covered it, and I've looked at it every single day for 27 years, reminding myself of what I lost, what I was too weak to fight for. I stood up. My legs felt unsteady. You kept a painting of her like some kind of shrine while she was dying, while we were drowning in medical bills, while I was working 3 jobs to afford her medications. I know. You watched me clean your house for 2 years, saw me, and you never said anything. I didn't know. When Elite sent over your employee file, your last name was Solano, but I thought it was coincidence. I never imagined Valeria would have kept her maiden name. I never thought you'd end up here in my house, cleaning the library where I keep the only proof that I loved your mother. You don't get to say you loved her. My voice was rising. Love is choosing someone, fighting for them. You chose money. You chose to hide. You chose to watch us suffer from your mansion while pretending anonymous payments made you a good person. I know. Stop saying that, I was shouting now. Stop admitting it like that makes it better. What do you want from me, Marcus? I looked at him. This man who was apparently my father, who had my face and my mother's heart, and not a shred of the courage either one required. I want you to tell the truth, I said. I want everyone to know what you did. His face went pale. What? Tomorrow. You're going to call a press conference. You're going to introduce me as your son. You're going to tell them everything. How you abandoned us. How you watched from a distance. How you chose your inheritance over your family. That would destroy my reputation. The company. I don't care about your company. You destroyed my mother's life. Now it's your turn. Marcus, please. That's my price. Public acknowledgement. Public truth. Or I walk out of here and you never see me again. Just like you did to us. He stared at me for a long moment. I watched him calculate, consider, weigh his options. Saw the same weakness that had led him to abandon my mother rising to the surface. Then something shifted in his face. Resignation, maybe. Or finally, after 27 years, a shred of courage. Okay, he said quietly. I'll do it. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. I walked to the painting, looked at my mother's face, so young and full of hope. Thought about her dying in a cramped apartment, refusing to take money from the man who'd abandoned her because her pride mattered more than comfort. This painting, I said, it's mine now, along with that account you set up. Not because I want your money, because she earned it. Every dollar. Raising me alone, dying with dignity, teaching me that some things matter more than wealth. Take it, Beltran said. Take all of it. It's been yours all along. I called Patricia from the staff room, told her I was terminating my employment, effective immediately. She didn't argue, probably relieved to be rid of the cleaner who'd violated the biggest rule in the house. Beltran had one of his attorneys, Thomas Greenberg, a state law specialist, 32 years at Morrison & Associates, draft an immediate transfer of the painting, the Wells Fargo account, and a formal acknowledgement of paternity. I signed nothing until the attorney confirmed everything was legally binding. Mr. Solano, Greenberg said carefully, are you certain you want to proceed with the public announcement? There are more private ways to handle this that would protect both parties. I'm certain. That night, I sat in my studio apartment with the painting propped against the wall, stared at my mother's face for hours, called in sick to my other 2 jobs, weekend shifts at a coffee shop and a restaurant, because I couldn't imagine going back to normal after everything had changed. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Arthur. I've scheduled the press conference for 2 p.m. tomorrow at the Fairmont. My PR team team is having a collective panic attack. I told them the truth. They'll survive. Will you be there? I typed back, yes, front row. The Fairmont's grand ballroom was packed. I arrived at 1:30 p.m. wearing the only suit I owned, bought for my mother's funeral, not worn since. Media everywhere. Cameras, reporters I recognized from TV, financial journalists, tech bloggers, everyone wondering why Arthur Beltran, known for avoiding press, had called an emergency conference. I sat in the front row, third seat from the center aisle. Beltran's PR director, Amanda Walsh, crisis communications, 15 years managing public figures, kept glancing at me nervously. She knew what was coming. She looked like she might be sick. At 2:03 p.m., Beltran walked to the podium. No prepared statement in his hands, no teleprompter, just him and a microphone, and the weight of 3 decades of silence. Thank you all for coming, he began. His voice was steady, surprisingly calm. I called this press conference to make an announcement that's 27 years overdue. He looked directly at me. In 1996, I was in a relationship with a woman named Valeria Solano. We were planning to get married. Then I found out my father disapproved of the relationship. He felt she wasn't from the right background, didn't have the right pedigree. He gave me an ultimatum: end the relationship or lose my inheritance. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I chose the money. I walked away from the woman I loved, and 6 months later, I learned she was pregnant with my son. The murmuring grew louder. Cameras were flashing. I sat perfectly still. Instead of doing the right thing, instead of fighting for her, supporting her, being a father, I hid. I sent anonymous money she refused to accept. I hired investigators to watch from a distance. I kept a portrait of her locked away in my library while she raised our son alone, working herself to exhaustion. His voice cracked. Valeria Solano died 3 years ago from cancer. She died in a 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco, struggling to pay medical bills, while I lived in a mansion worth $300 million. She died without ever accepting a penny of my help because her integrity mattered more than my wealth. He looked at me again. My son's name is Marcus Solano. He's 27 years old. For the past 2 years, he's been working as a cleaner in my house. I saw him regularly and never once acknowledged who he was. Never once acted like a father. Someone in the press pool shouted a question. Beltran ignored it. Yesterday, Marcus discovered the truth, and he gave me a choice: tell the world what I did or lose him forever. I chose truth because for the first time in my life, I'm going to choose the harder thing, the right thing. He stepped back from the podium, looked at me. Marcus, would you join me? I stood up, walked to the podium. Every camera in the room swiveled to capture my face. This is my son, Beltran said to the assembled press. I abandoned him before he was born. I watched him grow up from a distance. I let his mother die struggling while I did nothing. And I'm standing here today to tell you that I was wrong. That I've been wrong for 27 years. That no amount of money or success can make up for failing the people you're supposed to love. A reporter shouted, "Are you seeking a relationship with your son now?" Beltran looked at me. I took the microphone. "That's up to him to earn," I said, "if he can." The room erupted in questions. Amanda Walsh was trying to manage the chaos, but it was too late. The story was already out, already spreading. I walked out of the ballroom. Beltran followed me into the hallway. "Marcus, don't." I turned to face him. "You did what I asked. You told the truth. That doesn't make us family. That doesn't erase what you did to my mother. I know, but maybe—" I paused, thought about my mother's letter, about her insistence that I never know the truth because it would destroy something in me, thought about what she'd actually wanted, for me to be good, kind, strong, nothing like him. Maybe there's a way forward, I said. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe never, but acknowledgement, truth, a foundation to build something on, if we're both willing to do the work. Something shifted in his face, hope, fragile and uncertain. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn that," he said. "Good, you should." I left him standing in the hallway and walked out into the San Francisco afternoon. My phone was already blowing up, messages from people I hadn't talked to in years, news alerts, social media mentions. The story was everywhere. By 5:00 p.m., it was the top trending topic on Twitter. By 8:00 p.m., every major news outlet had picked it up. The billionaire who'd abandoned his son. The son who'd been cleaning his father's house for 2 years without either of them knowing. The painting of a dead woman that had brought the truth to light. Some outlets painted Beltran as a tragic figure, a man who'd made a youthful mistake and lived with regret. Others saw it my way, a coward who'd chosen wealth over family and only confessed when forced to. I didn't read most of it, didn't need to. The truth was out, that was all that mattered. 3 days after the press conference, I went to Wells Fargo and transferred the $847,000 to a new account under just my name. Paid off my mother's medical debt, $127,000 still outstanding. Set aside money for the education she'd always wanted me to pursue. Donated $50,000 to the hospital where she'd worked for 20 years. The rest I invested, carefully, thoughtfully, the way my mother would have wanted. Beltran reached out once a week after that. that. Short messages, asking if we could talk, if he could take me to dinner, if I'd let him explain more. I responded to about 1 in 3, kept him at arm's length, made him work for every inch of ground. The painting hangs in my apartment now. My mother's face, young and hopeful, reminding me every day of what matters. Not money, not status, not even family, when family means accepting abuse or abandonment. What matters is integrity, the strength to do the hard thing, the courage to stand alone if that's what truth requires. My mother had that. She'd raised me to have it too, and when Arthur Beltran stood at that podium and confessed to the world what he'd done, he finally, after 27 years, showed a glimpse of it himself. Some debts can't be paid quietly. Some truths need to be spoken in front of cameras, recorded for history, made public so everyone knows exactly what you chose and what you lost. I gave him that chance. That's more than he gave my mother. Whether it's enough, whether he can ever really be my father instead of just the man who happened to contribute to my DNA, that's a question I'm still figuring out. But I've got time, and unlike him, I'm not afraid of the hard questions. I learned that from my mother.